Hello and welcome, and I'm very pleased to welcome back once again Julie Van Olsen, who has, for many of you will recognise her as she's been on our online skin clinics that we run regularly, our coffee mornings, and I think you've done a couple of webinars too, which have been super popular. So welcome, Julie. To kick things off, Julie, if you'd like to tell everyone who may not have met you before a little bit about your background.
Yes, hello Katrina, and hello everybody listening. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Talk Health. I'm delighted to be back. My name is Julie, and I am essentially a dermatology nurse. I call myself a dermatology lecture practitioner because I literally do half clinical work and half teaching and education. I feel really passionate about both. I've looked after patients with skin conditions for 30 years, and I'm also very passionate about teaching because it is great to help other people with increased dermatology knowledge so they can provide a better service for patients. I also work for a charity 1 day a week called the National Eczema Society, and I work on the public helpline and help them with advice and information. So that's me.
Super busy as always. So today we're going to talk about something that affects many people, and for many people, they never understand why it is and what it happens. And we're talking about having a red face and understanding whether that red face is due to an actual specific skin condition or maybe some allergic reaction or an allergen to something or sensitivity that you're using. And I'm sort of fascinated by how many different things it could possibly be. And so today we're going to have a look at what those issues might be. What's the good thing to do to start off with? But we're not going to look at specific treatments, or we'll be here forever and a day, I should think. And also we will be talking about people with slightly darker skin tones, because for them also, people with slightly darker skin tones have, also have red sensitivities as well. It's just not so pronounced, but we will cover that as well. So, Julie, what is it? I've got a red face. How do I know whether it's a condition? And if so, what condition might it be? Where do I start?
Yes, it's a really good starting point. And I have to say that facial skin conditions can affect a whole range of people, literally from babyhood, where actually atopic eczema is most common on the face, right the way through the whole age range and lifespan. So thinking about someone, and we'll just think about adults, I think, for now, but we can go back to talk about facial eczema in children. If somebody develops a red face, their face becomes red and inflamed. And as we say, with people with darker skin tones, or we sometimes say skin of color, you might not see the apparent redness, but you will see maybe a darkening of skin tone. We call that hyperpigmentation. But alongside that, there is often symptoms of tingling, burning, sometimes itching, sometimes even swelling. And of course, alongside that, for people, because their face is the window to the world, complete devastation sometimes, embarrassment, what's happening. And I think really it's sort of time frame. First of all, has this happened before? Have you had an underlying skin condition such as eczema? Or is this something that is brand new? Does it come and go, or does it stay with you? So sometimes the skin sensitivity can be fairly transient, and that might be due to a sensitivity to maybe an ingredient in makeup. It may even become or be an allergy, and then you would need more specialist investigation. And it may come and go. So sometimes it's hard to even find the culprit. Whereas a skin condition, which also makes the skin sensitive, could be a range of things. Obviously, we've talked about eczema, and we do know that if you've had childhood eczema, you've got a much higher likelihood of developing what we call a contact dermatitis, particularly in your adult years. So it can be an irritant dermatitis where your skin simply is more sensitive, or it can be an allergic contact dermatitis where you actually have become allergic to something you put on your skin. This might be something that you may be commonly using and the allergy is built up. So it may be something within a makeup or moisturizer, or indeed it may be something that's a bit harder to find out what it is. And a common allergy that can appear on face is actually from nail varnish or even acrylic nails and glue, because we know that we all touch our face several times a day, even without thinking about it. So other conditions that would cause purely red faces, of course, we do have the spectrum of acne, which is a very important, another distressing skin condition. But with acne, you would really see more activity in terms of spots, either i.e. pustules or papules. But another condition is rosacea, and rosacea is very important because this can often affect people in their 30s and 40s and literally does appear as a red, tingling, sore face. And people sometimes think it's part of sensitivity, it's ongoing, and they don't realize actually this is a skin condition which actually is really quite easily treated. But sometimes it's dismissed. So I would say that if you have any facial redness or darkening of your skin tone with discomfort that is not going away, it's really, really important that you do go and see a healthcare professional. So go and see your GP, your nurse practitioner. You could even ask a pharmacist. And I think it's important to find out if you do have a diagnosed skin condition that can be treated, or whether it's a sensitivity, and then you have to think of your whole facial skincare and routine and maybe take things out. And we can talk about that a little bit later. So I hope that summarizes things. There are also other skin conditions that are rarer that can cause facial redness, such as lupus. There's another type of eczema called seborrheic dermatitis. We might have time to talk about that as well.
So it is a bit of a minefield, isn't it, to start off with, as to what it is that you might have. And so one of the first things, I mean, we know it's difficult to get to see a doctor, and it's even harder to get to see a dermatologist. What would be one of the first things that you would suggest that you could do at home to start eliminating, the issues?
Yes, I think if we talk about something like rosacea, which is probably the classic signs of a skin condition where you have a red, sore, tingling face that may burn as well, and even indeed with eczema, where you get perhaps more itching, but of course a lot of discomfort. So the first thing is to maybe think generally about your skincare and sort of start to make it very simple. So first and foremost, definitely get a good emollient or moisturizer, which you can buy over the counter, of course, and you can ask your pharmacist. I would say make sure it's a medical emollient. There are lots available, lots of different brands. But the key thing is a medical emollient is often a mixture of oil and water, and it doesn't contain fragrance. I think that's a really important thing. And there are some very good cosmetic emollients that don't contain fragrance. They all should also, if possible, and should be a pH of around 5.5, but that might not be on the label. So the key thing is that you take away any cleansers or other cosmetic moisturizers that may have fragrance in, because we know fragrance will irritate, and you use a very simple bland moisturizer to wash your face and moisturize with. And you also remove any soap or detergent as well, because we know that soaps and detergents are a real enemy to skin. And what they will do is they will raise the pH of the skin. And if your skin is inflamed, then the skin barrier will be disrupted, and any soap or detergent on your skin will simply make the problem worse. Also, the moisturizers will help dryness, and often when you have an inflamed or red face, dryness is a part of it as well. Then I would say it's really hard to tell people perhaps not to use makeup, and I really, really appreciate that. I like wearing makeup myself. But actually, if your skin is sore, it might be a good idea to maybe reduce or try and go without makeup. Now, what you could do, you could then reintroduce some makeup just one product at a time, in case it's that product that maybe is causing sensitivity. And you could sort of test any new makeup when you get it, maybe on the inner part of your arm as well. But it is very hard, because the instinctive thing that people want to do, and I completely understand, is they often want to just smother their face in foundation to cover up the redness as well. There are some cosmetics that do correct facial redness, which is interesting, but they only relate to rosacea. So again, it goes back to my point that if you're not sure if it's eczema or rosacea, it's really important to first of all get that diagnosis, or indeed alongside that, a contact allergy. So I think just keep things simple. Sometimes if your face is really sore or red, you can sometimes use a cold compress, but remember, water itself can dry out the skin as well. But do I think seek medical help if the redness and soreness is continuing, because then treatment and simple treatments are available from your GP or your nurse as well, may need to be put into place to just actually simply reduce the redness and the inflammation that's causing the soreness and the irritation.
And I think it is very hard when you come out with a red face, and it always happens at the completely the wrong time. As you said, you just want to smother yourself with foundation or something like that. And then that obviously that doesn't necessarily work for men who don't want to wear foundation. It's very hard for them as well. So one of the other things that causes red faces, as we know, is being out in the sun.
Yes.
And we all know we're meant to wear an SPF on our face, but lots of people don't. What would you suggest if you feel that you've actually burnt your face? Because that, I would imagine, is not pleasant.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. And I should say, we are talking about all age groups and all people, and I shouldn't forget men or people who don't wear makeup foundation. So apologies for that. But also, I was also going to go on with this particular question, which I think is really, really pertinent, as well as talking about facial skincare and how to maybe adapt it to reduce irritation, to actually talk about the sun and photo damage and other triggers, because I think that's absolutely key. So we do know, particularly going back to rosacea, and perhaps at this point I should describe exactly what rosacea is. It is when you have a red face with burning and tingling. It is actually related to the vascular structure of your face. So it's actually not related to acne, although I should say there are some theories about rosacea and why it's caused, and we don't know for absolutely sure. But one theory is that it's caused when there's been past dermal damage. So when we say dermal damage, it can often mean one of two things. So certainly sun. If you've had a lot of sun on your face, unprotected, and you have what we call photo damage, that can be a trigger for rosacea when you get older. And indeed, acne itself can be, because acne damages the dermis of the skin. We've got several layers of the skin, but the two main layers are the epidermis and dermis, and acne is a disease of the grease glands, or we call them sebaceous glands. So any damage from acne when you get older can mean that you're more susceptible to rosacea. So there's a link with acne, but rosacea isn't acne. And also a key treatment for rosacea is sun protection. So if you have mild rosacea and you get into a really good habit of using 50 SPF, which is your sun protection factor, but more importantly as well, as you're 50, you're looking for a sunscreen that has a 4 to 5 star. The star sign, which is a UK sign, is indicating the level of UVA protection. When your skin is photo damaged, it's because of constant exposure to UVA as well as the UVB rays that are the burning rays. Now, very important point is that UVA rays are in the atmosphere all year round. I personally wear 50 SPF on my face all year round. Another myth about sunscreen is that you don't necessarily need it if you have darker skin. That's absolutely not true. Everybody needs some protection because the UVA will cause the photo damage. And if you have rosacea, which on people with darker skin tones will actually appear more hyperpigmented or sort of darker pigment, sometimes rather than red or even purplish or grey, the SPF is so important. So that's really your first line treatment for rosacea all year round. In addition, another aspect of having a red face when you get older, if you have had constant photo damage, this can lead to another condition called actinic keratosis. We define this as a pre-cancer. Now, we're not saying that every area of actinic keratosis will move into a skin cancer, but there is the potential for a small number. Now, this will appear on sun-exposed areas, particularly the face, as red scaly patches that don't go away and again are irritated. They sometimes have a bit of a sandpaper feel and you can see them on your face. And of course, for men who don't have hair, the scalp is a very, very vulnerable area. So it's really important to protect your face and your scalp with your SPF 50 and your 4 to 5 star UVA. And then if any areas of your skin that perhaps have been photo damaged start to look different or maybe form a crusty type nodule or lesion or any areas that start to be painful, we say in healthcare that's a red flag. So a red flag means you should go and seek help from a healthcare professional because it's really, really important that we also prevent skin cancer, and skin cancer comes from sun exposure leading to photo damage.
I didn't realize you could get actin keratosis on your face. I just always assumed it was, because it's most commonly seen on people's heads.
Yeah, it's actually any sun exposed area. You can see it on lower legs, you can see it on hands, but often on the faces, quite often the sides of the face, sometimes even the ears, because people often, when they apply sunscreen, they sometimes forget the ears, sides of the face, and of course back of the neck as well, and this area of the chest. So it's sun exposed sites.
So actually, just going back, so if you have burnt your skin, is there anything that you can do quickly to hopefully stop the process? Or once you've burnt it, and there's not much you can do to reduce the damage?
Yes, no, again, it's a really good question. To reduce the damage, if you're sunburnt, and at the moment, as we speak, we have some very hot weather and people are going out. So the message is do not get burnt. Alongside that, I would also say do not use sunbeds. They have absolutely no health benefit at all. And you can burn quite badly with artificial light. But with so to keep your skin protected from the sun, wear a hat, seek the shade, all those good sun messages. But if you do sunburn and your face or even the rest of your body becomes red, you do need to immediately, work through that period, try and cool the skin. Certainly, again, use lots of moisturizer. Maybe keep the moisturizer in a fridge if it's a cream or a gel, so it's cool. Use cold compresses and reduce that. And the sunburn will reduce. But unfortunately, what you've done is you've added on another layer of photo damage. Right. And you've got to try and continue then to not get burnt again and use your sunscreen. And you can't necessarily reverse severe photo damage, but you can reduce the photo damage building up and then becoming more of a problem. And of course, if your skin is photo damaged, actually your skin becomes more sensitive as well because it's thinner, you've lost collagen, so your skin is not as healthy. So, sun protection is absolutely key for everybody, whether they have a skin condition or not. And of course, if you have sun sensitivity issues or your skin is sensitive to things, You may have to try and test a number of sunscreens, to find the one that suits you. It's a bit easier now, I think, because there are quite a lot of travel-sized sunscreens. And that some sunscreens do say they're for more sensitive skin, but it's a bit like emollients. It's a little bit of trial and error, because the best sunscreen or emollient, of course, is the one that suits you, and then the one that you use every day.
And I think that's the thing to point out, isn't it? That sometimes, you find something that works for you, and then the next month it doesn't work for you. There's no sort of rhyme or reason. It's just suddenly it just doesn't work for you anymore. So, and I suppose that those can cause irritants as well to your skin when you're trying out different products again.
Yes, that's a good point. And sometimes that relates to seasons as well, because, in the summer months, sometimes something a bit lighter it would be better. And of course, then if you perspire, that can be an irritant. But I think the key time of the year to be very aware of is certainly the autumn, as the weather gets colder and the central heating goes on and humidity reduces. And those sort of environmental effects can really play havoc on the skin and cause a lot more skin dryness. So then, you may have to move to a slightly heavier emollient, or sometimes people may need a choice of two. They may need a greasier ointment at night to almost rehydrate their skin, and a lighter one in the day. And I think you're right. There are some people who say we can't explain it. Some people say one emollient seems to work very well, then doesn't. Conversely, there are other people who absolutely love their chosen emollient and they want to almost use it for life. And then if there's a stock issue or it goes out of circulation, nothing else suits. It's kind of difficult, because sometimes you can't even apply a science to it. I sometimes say it's a little bit of the art of dermatology, but the key factor is it really is about patient's choice, and what suits you is individual. And that's why we're very lucky to have a wide range available to us as well.
And then, probably one last question, because we realised that, once we've worked out what we've got, I know it's possible to get more than one condition on your face. And obviously that can cause problems. I mean, I don't know how, so if somebody had acne, I don't know what they could have, psoriasis and rosacea, for example, what would you suggest to that person as to how to manage their care?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And we haven't mentioned psoriasis, actually, which we should have done.
Oh, gosh. Yeah,
No, that's another skin condition. Thankfully, unlike eczema can be quite common on the face. And interestingly enough, with eczema is that often with babies, it's the first area that's affected. And then sometimes as children grow up, the face can actually get a bit better. I never like to say people grow out of eczema or any skin disease, I have to say, because often you can have eczema as a child and it can be quite bad. And then it can go into remission, I like to say, and get better, only to return more severely as an adult. Now, not for everybody. And sometimes as an adult, you find the eczema comes back on the face. And psoriasis often occurs for the first time in the teenagers or the 20s. That's a common point that it starts. Thankfully, the face is rarely affected, but when you do have psoriasis on the face, it can be absolutely devastating, and so often relates to more severe psoriasis. But what you can get with psoriasis is more psoriasis on the hairline, so around the actual line of the hair, the forehead, and around the ears. But psoriasis plaques and areas of psoriasis on the face. And again, that can cause lots of issues in terms of dryness, scaling, tingling, etc. And then, of course, with acne, you would see acne on the face, but often the chest and the back can be affected as well. And rosacea tends to be just on the face. So if you did have what we call a mixed facial dermatosis, which means you've got more than one condition, you may have to alter treatment. So for instance, if you have acne and rosacea, that may mean the treatments sometimes that are used for acne that cause facial dryness, because acne is about overproduction of grease glands. So the treatment is working on actually drying out those areas, of course, could play havoc with rosacea. Saying that, it's quite uncommon to get acne and rosacea together, because acne normally happens in the teenage years and 20s, and rosacea a bit later. But sometimes people, they are connected, but they're different. I think a good example perhaps is rosacea and eczema. They can occur together. So with eczema, again, with good information and good patient education, we may treat facial eczema with mild, moderate steroids, but just for a short term. But if you put any topical steroid on an area that also has rosacea, so you've got a mixed pattern of eczema, rosacea, and I have to say you can see this sometimes with contact dermatitis as well, this will really play havoc, because we know that in terms of treatment, rosacea should never be treated with topical steroids. But there are other eczema treatments that are non-steroidal. There are treatments called topical immunomodulators or topical calcineurin inhibitors. So what I simply say to people is, you would have the same general skincare with your emollients and your sun protection, but if you had eczema and rosacea together, you would use a eczema treatment on the areas of eczema one half of the day, and then the rosacea treatments, which you would target to the areas of rosacea. And a common treatment for rosacea is a treatment that actually is an ivermectin-based treatment that actually reduces something called the Demodex mite, because another cause of rosacea is an oversensitivity to this little mite on the skin. But the facial skincare and sun protection would be similar. So sometimes you do have to juggle two treatments, morning and night. And if it is complicated, I would say that definitely is a very good reason to be referred to dermatology, because even though your face may be thought to be a small area of your body, as I say, it's absolutely devastating when you have a condition that you cannot control on your face. It can affect your whole quality of life, your relationships, your work. So I think for dermatology, even if it's a small area affected, it can cause really big consequences and a lot of distress. So, our dermatologists in the UK are fantastic, and they would really be able to put in the right, more advanced therapies from primary care, put in the appropriate tests. You may need patch testing if there's a thought of contact dermatitis. And even if your facial dermatoses is very severe, you may need treatments beyond topical creams. So, it is as anything, a spectrum of conditions when you have a red face.
Yeah. But it's definitely, I'm definitely getting the message from you is to go and seek professional help to get it sorted as soon as possible, and to get it under control, because of those in the mental health issues, which is what you've been explaining, that we all know come from having conditions specific that show on your skin, on your face.
Yes, and I think there are a lot of good cosmetic solutions, but I think if you haven't got a firm diagnosis, and you may need medical treatment put in place, or you may need referral for further tests, particularly for patch testing for contact allergy, don't struggle. I think, a lot of people really worry, and they say this to me on the helpline is, I really, really worry about bothering my GP. It's just my skin. Should I bother them? And I say, no, honestly, they want you to see them. GPs and people in and healthcare professionals in primary care, they're there for everyone, for any condition. And if this is distressing, it's a serious condition, skin conditions should be taken very seriously, and they should be treated promptly. So never feel like that. And often within practices there are GPs or nurses who actually indeed have a special interest in dermatology as well, and obviously they also have good links to dermatologists. We have systems in many areas of the country called advice and guidance, where they can even send in images of your face and get some extra help from dermatology. So I think never think medical help is not out there if you have a red face, because it certainly is.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Sue. Once again, super informative and makes me kind of think, right, okay, when I have a next red face, I'm going to really think about where it's come from and what it might be caused by and to go and get it sorted. So thank you very much, Judy.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for listening, everyone.